Good evening. I guess you can all hear me. My name is Anna Myers, and I've been asked to facilitate this evening's session. Welcome to the public forum in Conception Bay South for the Recreation and Cultural Master Plan for your community. This is the draft plan that was prepared by Track Consulting, and this is your chance to participate in seeing the full presentation and ask questions of the team as they work on the final recommendations for the plan. At this time, I would like to ask a new councillor who is now the chair of the Recreation Committee to have a few words. I turn the table to Shelley Moores.
Thank you. For those who don't know me, I'm Councillor Moores for Ward 1. I'm also the chair of the Recreation Leisure Committee. I'd first like to welcome the councillors we have here, Councillor Tilley, Councillor Connors, and Councillor Goss, all over here, and regrets from Councillor Barrett, Hardy, Butler, Hillier, and of course Mayor Bent. Conception Bay South is a vibrant and diverse area, and as our community grows, so must our facilities and the way in which we deliver recreation and cultural opportunities for residents. As a council, we have a responsibility to respond to the growing needs of our community. And with the guidance of a recreation and cultural master plan, we can do just that. To develop a plan that accurately represents the needs of residents, consultation with residents is paramount. The best way for us to know what those needs are is to hear from our residents directly. So far, our consultants have spoken with over dozens of stakeholder groups and collected survey responses from over 1,000 members of the community to learn their opinions, challenges, and ideas regarding recreation and culture in Conception Bay South. This evening, the consultant will present a draft on their findings, which will be used in completing the final report for the town. We encourage everyone to engage in the session and help us develop a report that truly represents our residents and community groups. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Moores. Just for some housekeeping items, the emergency exit is at the back. The washrooms are behind me. And if you could, just turn your phones onto vibrate or whatever, just so that we aren't interrupted during the meeting. So that would be very helpful. What we're going to do, the format for this evening will be first to allow the Tract team to present their findings and some of the recommendations and so forth of the plan. And then once they're finished, then we'll open it up to the floor. So I'm just going to introduce the table. On the very far, on my far right, is John Whalen, who's the acting director for recreation for the town of CBS. Then, of course, you've just heard from Shelley Moores, who's the chair. Then there's Karina Daw, who's part of the Tract team. And then Neil Daw, who is the president of Tract Consulting, and he's going to do the presentation for this evening. So I guess without further ado, I'll turn it over to you, Neil.
Ladies and gentlemen, we've been at this since, I think, Karina, February, and it's been a little delayed because of COVID and the municipal elections, but we've done a lot of work, and as the council referenced, we've talked to a lot of folks, and we've done a lot of Zooming. So this evening, I'm going to take you through what we've done, and it is thick. So it's a lot of information. I'm going to try to go fast but not hurry, and I should be done in, say, an hour and 20. Just kidding. It's going to take me about 30. Maybe I'll go over a little bit. So first of all, we have 8 items to discuss with you this evening. The first couple I'm going to go through fairly rapidly. For a number of these, we have done independent report based on our assessment. So we've provided the town with a more detailed report that they have on demographic profile, impacts of COVID-19, facility trends, and inventory of parks, playground, trails, and open space. So I'm really going to be, as they say, flying high, but go down a little bit into some detail so you'll understand some of the concepts that we're considering for the community. So to begin, I'm going to talk very briefly about demographic profile and projections for the community. And it's important to note that in recreation planning and in much planning, virtually all planning, demographics is critical. Understanding your population, what we call by cohort, the different age groups, and the number you have in the community, and what your community is going to look like over the next 10 or 20 years, so you can plan versus react. And another very important thing to realize is that the geography impacts community. From a recreation planning perspective, roughly a third of people can't take part in recreation because they either can't afford it or they can't get to the recreation asset. So how we design our community from a community connectivity perspective so people can get to where the recreation opportunities exist, programming, et cetera, it's very important to have an understanding of geography. And in my opinion, this town is blessed with having some fantastic amenities to connect it. So when we look at the community is made up of 4 wards. Ward 1 is to the far left through to Ward 4. So Ward 1 is Topsail, Chamberlain's, Manuals. It has a population of, as of 2016, 7,800 people. The next ward is Manuals, Long Pond, Foxtrap, smaller population, 4,200. Foxtrap, Kelligrews area really has grown. I mean, one time I live just over here in Kelligrews, you could count the cars, and now you're waiting 5 minutes, not 5 minutes, but you're waiting to get on the road. And that's been precipitated, we feel, by the Peacekeepers Way. The first phase came as far as the Legion, and that's a demonstration of the impact that transportation infrastructure has on built form in your community. And the last one, where we have 5,000 in the western end of the community, in the Seal Cove and Upper Gullies, and we call Lower Gullies, Kelligrews area, is anticipated to grow with the extension of that highway into Seal Cove, and because as well the town has been investing in infrastructure in that part of the community. So again, looking forward, we would anticipate the plan for more people, particularly in the Seal Cove area of the community. So when we look at the population looking forward, trying to be a bit of a soothsayer, you know, what's our community going to look like? RANLab, which is a big data lab at the university, at the Harris Center, did a demographic profile of all communities on Northeast Avalon. Conception Bay South was one of those. What they did is they projected forward the demographic profile of the community up to 2035. And they looked at a couple of models that I'm going to describe to you. So first they looked at they projected seniors and folks that are 65 and over. So we would call that a cohort of 65 plus. That cohort, they're projecting up to 2035, is going to increase by 75%. 75%. A significant impact on the community, and also a need, provides the information needed to start planning for that now. Secondly, when they look at the cohort that was between 55 to 64, what we like to call the young senior, which I've happily progressed out of, increase will be smaller than the seniors, but we're still going to see a growth in that area. And I should explain as well that when I say historic model and targeted model, I should have said this first, so I'm backing up now, but I won't click the slide, is they looked at 2 models. The historic model is when you look over time how the town, the population has grown. They're just projecting that forward now to 2035. The second is the targeted model. That is, if the town started to market, did an in-migration strategy for the community, they're suggesting that we would see an increase in young children and a net gain of about 4,500 people in the community between the cohort of 25 to 34. And that's the sweet spot for municipalities because those are the people, generally speaking, young adults, starting families. That's what communities are looking for. And then the historic model is basically suggesting that the young kids, young children, and youth would remain stable, and there would be an increase in the 20 to 34 cohort, but not as great. So this information can be used by the town to plan its recreation infrastructure and its programming requirements into the future. And that's why there are varied implications in this information that we apply to how we plan for facilities. So how's that? Okay. Don't let me bore you. COVID-19 impacts. COVID has changed the water on the beans and how we use and utilize our communities. Now, I'm going to tell the odd story, and it's going to progress my presentation a minute or two. So if you want me to stop telling these stories, put your hand up, okay? So we're curious at TRAC, so I called 50 town managers, and I asked them what were the impacts of COVID on their community. This was about 5 months, 6 months after. And the big thing they told us was people are getting out. People are now working from home. They're realizing they don't have to hop in the car, drive to St. John, zoom back. This was a lady in Hants Harbor, by the way. The town manager in Hants Harbor told me this. And she said that now we're seeing families out. Mom and dad aren't getting up, getting breakfast, getting kids off to school, because they can work from home. Working from home and is really changing community, and the number of people, number of home-based businesses in community has grown rapidly. That too has an impact on recreation infrastructure and on social gathering places in your community. But I'm digressing slightly. All I'm going to say is that we have done a full study on this, impact on indoor or outdoor facilities that the town has. But what's been confirmed is that COVID-19 established public parks, and I would add trails, as essential to community health and well-being during the pandemic. I would suggest that if there was no pandemic, that parks and trails are still essential to community health and well-being, and as I'll demonstrate further, they have measurable economic value. They're not a capital burden, they're an investment in place. The key is facility design, flexibility, adaptability, and multifunctionality. So as the cohort of those folks that are going to be 75%, 65 plus, you design for that as you develop your facilities, but you also design so, as we see here, people can space themselves out as they're enjoying recreation in the park. And that's where we plan for it, and we want to make sure the town is ready as it happens. So the parks that you have don't have to close like we saw last time because people weren't ready for this. So we have to be ready. So that's all I'm going to say on COVID, but it has been very impactful on quality of life and elevated the need for parks and recreation amenities and facilities. Very briefly on revenue, fees, programs, and grants in the community. The Parks and Recreation budget, annual budget is $4.6 million in the town. In terms of cost recovery, the highest is for special events, and the lowest is in Worsley Park and CBS. And we could talk a lot about the impact of special events, both community and to attract outside people, and the measurable economic impact they can have, but we won't. In terms of program fees, CBS offers lower fees than your neighbors. Your population, by our assessment, by and large, is affluent, and many of your families are particularly affluent as well. That's not to say that we don't have the socially disadvantaged in this community that need support and assistance to participate in recreation facilities and enjoy programs, but it's great that we have such an affluence in this community. And currently, it varies between communities, but many communities charge a fee for minor sports. They don't in this town, but if you were to charge like $20 a player, you could generate $60,000 per annum that you could put in to support other programs or to reinvest back into your facilities. The other thing that's starting to happen that we've been tracking for some years now is the recreation economy. Recreation is now big business. Since the pandemic and the impact it's had, in parts of North America, developers are building parks and then building residential development around them because the park is the vehicle to attract the residents. In Canada, it generates roughly $26 billion annually. Almost 500,000 jobs, people employed, and look, $7.1 billion. I mean, if Mr. Trudeau knows this, he's going to be building a lot of parks. CBS has, in our opinion, two major regional, one I would say is provincial, outdoor recreational assets that allow the town to benefit in a measurable and significant way and tap into the regional market. And those two are the CBS Trailway and the proposed ATV Trail. And why do I say that? If we look at the CBS Trailway, it occurs in the most populated part of the province. It's suggested that over the next number of years, the population of the Northeast Avalon will be half of the population of the island. I would bet that, and I don't have any statistics, I'm guessing now, I do it at the odd time, I would say the catchment for the trail in the St. John's is 100,000 people. We've got 10 kilometers of coastline. The coastline between along Conception Bay South and into Holyrood is the longest piece of continuous coastline along the entire 1,200 kilometers of the rail bed in the province. And this is what people are looking for. Bikers are increasing significantly. I ran into a guy on the rail bed the other day I hadn't seen in years. He's here now because the town and Paradise have partnered to upgrade the section around Topsail Pond that had that 1.5-inch stone on it. So you can hop on your bike and on an 1.5-inch grade, 6% grade, you can bike to St. John's. I actually bike to Ninepenny fairly frequently. I mean, it's fantastic. And it's great to have a destination, especially when they really know how to make beer. And we're also seeing that these folks are visiting businesses in the area. Manuel's River is now, Ninepenny has actually developed a special brand for Manuel's River that they're now selling. They're now offering more food services. And what Manuel's River is doing, in my opinion, is fantastic in terms of the programming and what they're doing in the community. And we see potential developments at the Foxtrot Marina, at Seal Cove, and at Indian Pond that the Trailway will help make them economically viable. And we would suggest that more study is needed, but look at those opportunities in a broader way that might include not just recreation and tourism, but also how you develop the land base. And it's also another of the many reasons to live and move to Conception Bay South. The second one would be the CBS ATV Trail. We did a study, gee whiz, maybe in 2010, I can't remember. I'm getting old, I forget stuff. I wash my hair twice every morning, what's left of it. But when the Trailway was converted, there was a plan developed to put a bypass in. And the town has a committee in place and is still working hard. I don't know, Councillor Connors is here, I believe chairs that committee. There's an abundance of users in the region. We've done studies for Holyrood and Paradise. There's a lot of people that are ATVing. It scored high in the resident surveys, you'll see. And another reason that it's so popular and so many are participating is because of COVID. Sales of ATVs is up 30% since 2019. People can't go on vacation, so they're going ATVing, and they're getting hooked on it, and they love it. And it's a lot of fun. But there's no formal purpose-built trail here, but the town is working away at it. And it provides a link to the entire province. Think about it. If you had an ATV trail here that linked into Holyrood, you could hop on that ATV, and if you want it, you could go right to Port aux Basques. Right now, ATVs are getting off in Port aux Basques, going to Placentia Junction and going down into Placentia to get the ferry, but the reason they're not coming into St. John's is they can't get close. Opportunities abound, in my opinion. As the gateway, the town put a gateway for ATVing at Indian Pond. It's been a tremendous success. I'm there frequently. I can't believe the number of people that are not only on their ATVs, but they're boating as well. So the small boating opportunities in this community are tremendous. And it's another reason to live or move to Conception Bay South. Current trends and best practices. Really, really, really important to understand how important trends are. Does anyone know what pickleball is? 10 years ago, if you asked somebody what pickleball is, they wouldn't know what you're talking about. Now it's the fastest growing sport in North America, I do believe. Pickleball. In terms of trends, demographic trends. The family structure has changed somewhat. We're seeing a lot more households with one person in them. We're seeing households with a mom or a dad and one or two children. But we're also seeing more people are starting to get married and have children. But the basic structure of family has changed, just as the structure of visitors has changed. Many more tourists now are coming alone or coming in couples. And we're seeing increasing diversity, the ethnicity, am I saying it correctly, in the community, in the province, we're seeing changing, and their culture and their needs and interests are a little different, very interesting, but they need to be accounted for. In terms of behavioral trends, from a recreation planning perspective, there's a lot more informal now. You know, it's like, oh, geez, 12 o'clock, got to do maybe aerobics. It's like, well, when I got time, I think I'll go do aerobics or to have a game of pickup basketball. So having the amenity available for people to do that is important. More individual sports, more experiential, such as the foraging program that Manuel's River has. That's an example of an experiential recreation opportunity. And personal growth. Volunteerism is decreasing, but the total hours are stable, which means fewer people are doing more. And I cannot overstate how important volunteers are. The only thing that will come close to it is having partners to provide recreation in your community. But volunteerism is critical. No recreation department can survive without a good volunteer base, and we need to be aware of that. Children and child obesity, we have the highest rate in the country, but we know that if we provide variety and we provide amenity close to where people live, they will recreate. Nature-based recreation is growing significantly. I mean, in Japan now, in some of the cities, if you want to go for a nature walk, you got to pay for it. Here, we're a few minutes, we're in it. The opportunities we have from a nature-based recreation perspective are huge in this community, and I'll show you why shortly. And mental health. When I was executive officer for the Grand Concourse, I used to do these, not me, but our crew would do these surveys all the time. We found that over 30% of the people that were walking those trails were doing it for mental relief, not just physical. They were doing it to go out and release. And facility trends, intergenerational programs. People of 55 plus are extremely active. They want to go to a spin class just like a teenager might. So the programs have to be designed to accommodate it. And parks and trails, as I've suggested, are socioeconomic assets. The most sought after recreation amenity in North America is simply more places to walk. And we know there's lots of studies now coming out of Europe and the States to confirm that parks and trails have measurable economic value. If I'm a developer, I'm making sure that when I put in my development, I'm putting in a trail because it puts more equity into houses. And during the study, we have people telling us that they're going to move because there's no trail next to where they're living. It's not becoming a nice to have, it's becoming a need. And it will attract people to your community. In terms of the inventory we did of parks, trails, and open spaces, I'm not going to ask how I'm doing for time. This is the inventory. You can't see, but there's a whole bunch of little dots there. I'll show you bigger dots in a minute. But these are the trails and open spaces. And I got play areas separate because it's just too many to mention. When we look at, we divided the town up into two pieces. Everything we inventoried is set up on a GIS platform that links into the town system. The town has an incredible mapping system, by the way. The CBS, the circles that you see, I forgot my little machine. These here, we just apply what's called a metric that says that everybody should be within a 5-minute walk of a park, trail, or other recreation amenity. So these circles represent 5 minutes from the park, which is 400 meters. And now you could make it bigger if you wanted, but we said 400. And so what you see is that all these gaps here are areas in the community that might be underserviced from a parks and trails perspective. And the pink areas are areas that the staff that we work with on this suggest are maybe in need of renewal or reimagining, that they don't seem to be used. But you can see these gaps here are what we were going to try to fill with our study. So the key findings that come out of the park's open space inventory is facilities do not always respond to area demographics. There's no point having a tot lot of most of the community or adults or seniors. Some outdated aging commitment maintenance standards vary. And again, this is not to say the folks that are doing maintenance for these parks are not doing a good job. A young man, Justin, I forget his last name, fabulous young man. They work really hard, but they got a lot to look after. Tot lots are good, but they're expensive to maintain, and they service a small cohort. Access to parks are not equitably distributed across the entire community, as I've demonstrated, and there's a lack of what we call full-service community parks. Think of Bowring Park, or think of Bannerman, or think of St. David's Park, or Cobb's Pond, or Margaret Bowater and Corner Brook. We need a place where the community can go that has a broad range of facilities, and we need these within, say, a couple of kilometers of everybody in the town. And there's a model that's required and needed, we feel, for developing your parks and trails. I'm very briefly going to introduce you to the landscape in Conception Bay South because it relates to the model I'm about to show you. So this is the trailway, and this is the early bypass. The town now is working to put the bypass along here. Very briefly, what I want to point out to you is that most of the town is developed closer to the shoreline and would be what I would say is north of Peacekeepers Way. The area of the town that's to the north, the dark green are areas of the community that are zoned as conservation. The light areas are areas that are zoned for recreation. So it's a fabulous opportunity. And it doesn't mean you can't develop in these lands, but you develop in these lands in the context of your parks and trail system that we're talking about. These river valleys, there are 14 river valleys in the town. Each of those river valleys provides an opportunity to create a north-south connection with a trail along the river's edge. Good examples, excellent examples are the Gateway Trail here that the Keep Group have been working on. That's fabulous. And the Manuals River Trail, which is, I think, probably maybe our singular trail asset in the community. Think about that applied to all these river valleys. Okay? And then look, you know what these are? Like a rabbit warren. You know, anyone tell me what these are? All these black lines? Informal ATV trails. Now I say ATVs, but people are up here side-by-siding. People are up here hiking. Karina and I went up around here. It's quite lovely. But there's an opportunity here, we feel. But we were surprised at just how many trails there were. When we looked at it first, we said, what the heck is that? So what we're suggesting as a potential model, I want to be very clear to you, I'm not saying this is what the town got to do. We're saying this is a starting point, but we do feel the town needs to study this further and deeply, but it's a lot of work. First of all, if we look at where all those recreation and conservation areas are as your nature-based recreation area, which is south of the bypass or Peacekeepers Way, as an area for both motorized and non-motorized, but on dedicated right-of-ways. So there's a dedicated right-of-way for hiking, there's a dedicated right-of-way for ATVing. There's room to do it. Areas to the north would be more marine-based, urban, and neighborhood recreation. That's north of the bypass and non-motorized. So look, that's supposed to be water, by the way. Not the best, is it? I failed hard. And these are, I showed you the smaller circles. Well, these circles have a 2-kilometer radius. So it's like 4 kilometers from side to side, and roughly you could fit 5 of those from Topsail to Seal Cove. If we were to put a full-service community park, it doesn't have to be in the middle, but inside those circles to service those areas, that everybody is in, say, a 15-minute walk of, and then create your trail system such as Keep has done and Manuel's River have done. And again, they wouldn't be straight lines, of course. This is just stylized. Then you have a connection from the north to the south through the community. If you then add neighborhood parks that are within 5 minutes walk of everybody, you have a park system for the community. And this all can be done with an adaptation, modification of most of what you currently have in the community. You don't have to reinvent the wheel, you just need to modify how the wheel works. Then the trailway is that it's like an organizing principle. The beauty of the trailway, that you can connect every neighborhood just about in the community with that trailway and then link to these trails. Then Peacekeepers Way becomes the divide, and this is where the underpasses exist, so ATVers can get under the road and into the motorized area of the community. And so that creates the divide for motorized, non-motorized, and non-motorized. And then the ATV trail that they connect with connects in, hopefully, to Paradise in the east and on to Holyrood and on to Port of Ask. So that's what we're suggesting as a starting point for a connectivity and a trail system master plan for the town. When we apply that to one of those circles, this is what it might look like. And you can see this is the trailway, and this is one of those river valleys with a trail through it connecting into the rail bed. So if you were living here, by way of example, a young person or an old one could get on a bike or walk and go to the new community park with that splash pad and a skating rink that's going to be a huge attraction for the town. Anyway, I won't get into the details. Oh, the other thing I wanted to mention is how important schools are. Look, in that area, we got 3 schools with gymnasia and outdoor recreation amenity. So the idea of school parks is something we're suggesting be explored further. So how's that? Are you not bored yet? Am I going too long? Probably. Community consultations. This is a lot of information, and it's not as many pretty pictures, but I tried to put a few pictures in there. In terms of the consultation, stakeholder interviews and questionnaires, 57 organizations and 14 meetings were held, and Anna and Karina led all this. Resident survey, we got 934 responses. That's a good number. We only got 61 responses from youth, which is unfortunate, but when you compare what the youth told us and what the majority of the community told us, you'll see they're quite similar. So in terms of indoor facilities, what we found, sports groups would benefit from a new indoor sport facility. New volleyball courts would support being able to host tournaments. A new community center would be important to the social fabric of the town. Arts and cultural programs and facilities are a gap in the town. Professional performance space would benefit performing arts as well as tourism. Affordable, adaptable, again there's that word, affordable space to support meetings, workshop, and banquet. The need for a curling rink was discussed, and the need for perhaps a new indoor pool so we could host tournaments. When we look at, and again, keep in mind, these are from all those stakeholder interviews, from outdoor facilities, more athletic facilities need to meet current demand, more facilities need to grow membership and to support hosting of tournaments, more opportunities for winter activities, sliding, skiing, snowshoeing, and those lands that are south of the Peacekeepers Way would be the place to have these happen because you're at a high elevation, use those north-facing slopes. We don't get a whole lot of snow, but that's where you would get it. And outdoor spaces to support summer performance spaces. Again, COVID has made this happen. We're seeing a lot more programming and outdoor performances in parks. So we're suggesting we design parks to accommodate it. And again, we talked about it, but let's reimagine the existing spaces. In terms of the stakeholder interview findings regarding programs. Programs are critical to get people engaged in recreation and to provide recreation services. Losing volunteers, as we talked about, due to aging, and volunteer recruitment and retention is critical for the town. Arts and cultural program are a gap in the town. The focus needs to be on programs for family recreation and youth, better promotion of recreation opportunities in CBA in the town. It's not that the town doesn't do a good job promoting, they most certainly do, but promoting everybody, even private recreation providers. And operation and maintenance, citizens hold Conception-based outstaff in high regard and have only positive comments. We have never had so many, and I'm not kowtowing the council and staff, I'm not, but we've never had so many positive comments about recreation department since we've been at this. And you can tell I've been at it a while. So in terms of household participation in recreation activity, this came from the survey. Look at the number one priority. What did I tell you about? All over North America, number one thing, people want more place to walk. So people are walking. So this is what people are doing. 77% are walking, 63% visiting parks and open space, 58% hiking. Outdoor swimming, by the way, is trending upwards. Europeans are crazy for it. And bicycling and cycling, I'm not sure what the difference is, but it's 42%. In terms of priorities, investment in a recreation facility should be a priority. 85% agree, and of those 85%, 58 strongly agree. Town invests in modern recreation and cultural facility with a variety of programs and recreation activities. 80% agree, 62% strongly agree. That's quite the endorsement. Town should expand the park system, 78% agree, 50% of them strongly, and the town should expand the trail system, 75% and 49%. And the beauty of trail systems is everybody wants them and they don't cost a fortune. In terms of arts and cultural programming, priorities, town should play a greater role in arts and cultural program. 61% agree, 31% strongly agree. Arts and culture bring members of the community together, 78% agree, and somebody stole my numbers, but there's around 41% strongly agreed. Arts and culture create a sense of community and community pride, 75% agree, and 43% strongly agree. Highest priorities from the 808 respondents in the town related to outdoor parks and recreation facilities. Highest priority is better trail connections between neighborhoods. Now think about that trailway. Splash pads. Towns ahead everybody, they got one underway. More walking trails. More community parks and facilities for the entire community, and that responds to that model I showed you. And look, outdoor ice rinks, and again, the town has one underway, which is great. In terms of funding priorities, indoor recreation and arts and culture facilities over the next 10 years, 809 respondents. New community center with all those nice things in it. Farmers market, farming is really hot and it's really increased again because of COVID. Youth center or space for youth and teens, which is great, but often the best place for a youth center is in a community center, but if you can have their own entrance, they like that. New indoor swimming pool amenities, and an indoor multi-purpose turf facility. And as you can see, it's possible to integrate much of this in one facility if you wish to. In terms of recreation and cultural programs priorities, 81% agreed that they would be motivated to participate if there were a broader range of programs available. Remember I said programming is so critical and that people will participate if the programs respond to their needs. Programs are needed for all groups, with programs for adults, 74%, and family and teens, 73%. Often in these studies, the folks that get missed often are the teens. More types of programs are needed, including general interest, fitness and recreation levels, 68%, performing arts, 63%, and arts and crafts. An arts and crafts program, particularly nature-based, we worked in Grand Falls and they have programs and there's a big lineup just to register. Would you support an increase in property tax rent for new facilities and programs? Now, who the heck is going to say yes to that? 55% of the community did. Now, there's an endorsement. 55% of the almost 1,000 that participated in the survey, which we feel is representative of the community, said yeah. 19% didn't comment, and 26% said no. In terms of sports, recreation, arts, and cultural activities participated in, what people are participating in, and this is the youth. Again, regrettably, only 61% respondents, but the information is interesting. Again, look, for youth, it's the same as for the general population, 70%. Hiking, 67. Visiting open spaces, 55. Outdoor swimming, 45. ATVing, almost 40%. Visiting playgrounds, 34. And paddle sports. And paddle sports are really, really taken off. In terms of sports, recreation, and cultural activities you would like to participate in, there's the youth now that aren't available in the town. Look, paddle sports, 29. ATV riding. Imagine what the bypass would do for those young folks, 27%. Archery. Archery is really trending upward, amazingly so. 23%. Splash pad, attending theater, outdoor swimming, and visiting parks and open spaces. So, when we asked the question, does the town need a new recreation and cultural facility with all those good things in it? The resounding response, 80% said yes. 80%. 10% undecided, 10% said, you got to be kidding. In terms of regional partnerships, during our work, we talked to the neighboring communities, and they're all interested in working together. And what we were pleasantly surprised to find was how much the recreation staff in the town is talking to the recreation staff in the other communities. So regional cooperation from a recreation planning perspective is well underway. And the key assets that we feel we should be working with, well, the town already is, on would be the bypass and the trailway. And there are other opportunities as well that should be investigated in the context if there is a new community center. Cultural strategy, benefits of cultural activities. Folks like to attend theater, art, exhibit, and performances. A very high percentage of the people surveyed said that they would go to performances in the town if there was space available to do so. People want to participate in cultural activities. Youth will broaden their knowledge, develop skills, and express themselves creatively, inspires teamwork, community pride, mental health, exposes youth to literature and art, provides opportunities for residents to socialize and participate in mind-shared experiences, and promotes diversity and inclusivity. In terms of cultural strategy, we talk a lot about expanding and using parks, but integrating culture into those spaces would be helpful. I'd love to talk to you about using smartphones to integrate a trail system into learning for children, but I won't, but there's unreal opportunities out there. Cultural opportunity involve performing and visual arts along walks, make art visible in unconventional places, have opportunities for youth of all ages to interact and participate in the art form. In terms of, we're proposing CBS Arts and Nature Festival. Oh, and I should mention that for this part of the work, Miss Amy House worked on our team to help us prepare this part of the work. Suggested a multi-day, multi-activity experiential interactive festival for all ages. Emmanuel Zura, by the way, is already doing some of this. A partnership between different arts, businesses, and got to pay the artist. A central cultural facility is suggested, but other opportunities to have cultural events would be at the yacht club, the marina, community market, outdoor theater and parks, and use headliners to attract a wide audience and in-person talent. And this is some of those outdoor workshops, foraging, and this is Andy Goldsworthy. I don't know if any of you are familiar with him. He's a British guy. Anyway, look him up, Google him, Andy Goldsworthy. He does incredible environmental art. This is a class, he had children do this. This is all made with needles and cones. It is quite fun. Storytelling, nighttime theater, and a way of life exhibits that happen at different areas and different opportunities in the community. So, I'm just about done. How am I doing? Getting warm up here. So this is a summary, and this is very dry, but this is what we're recommending that came out of the work by priority. So from an indoor needs perspective, Indoor needs. First priority in year one, look, sorry, I got my E misplaced, is a new community center, and suggesting that a feasibility study and operational plan be undertaken to confirm the viability. And we're suggesting to the town that they do, the overused term, a deep dive into this to understand what measurable expenses and costs are going to be. Will there be a subsidy be required? Is there a partnership opportunity to work? Should have a staffing plan? What's your staffing burden? So you're very, very well informed before you make a big decision, and the town is very receptive. Cultural performing arts feasibility study to develop a cultural performing arts center, with the suggestion that when we do the feasibility study, the opportunity would be assessed in that context to determine, would it be better to have that facility associated with a new community center? Would it be better associated with the schools in at Foxtrap that have a group? Would it be better as an amenity in the downtown that the town is working hard to develop as a core amenity and attraction? There are lots of things to think about. Indoor pool, a feasibility study to see the viability, and perhaps the indoor pool. We did one of these for the town of Bay Roberts where the pool was the second phase, so that can be done as well. Squash courts, a feasibility study. Mr. Harton there has a program of providing people that are mobility challenged are now able to play squash, because I think David Hart's his name. It's the first one in Canada, and he's a volunteer. Youth, increased youth, seniors, spaces, inventory of existing, that can be a component of community center or use existing spaces. Oh, I forgot to say, farmers assessment for a farmer's market is another one. Oh, there it is. And a feasibility for a curling rink. All the others are here when we're suggesting the curling rink a little further down the road. So that's the indoor. In terms of outdoor needs, we talked about connectivity. We think it makes a whole lot of sense for the town to work from this plan to look at a connectivity plan. Now, what's different about a connectivity plan and just a trail plan is that the connectivity plan integrates your physical infrastructure, and it would also integrate mass transit. So if you had, when we designed the Grand Concourse, we designed it so the trailheads came out at bus stops. And expand and improve parks and green spaces with those amenities we talked about and those parks we talked about. And it's possible, and we think it may be a good idea, to actually do the connectivity plan and your parks and trails and open space plan at the same time. And more water recreation. The opportunity is so big, we think that the town should do an individual study on the opportunities associated with water-based recreation. And improve the performance and cultural spaces, devise a grassroots advisory committee, and that will be in year 2. And then West End Recreation Facility, create a multi-ball diamond site at Richard Parsons and consider additional amenities, and this potentially could be a site for one of those community parks we talked about. And more and improved rectangular fields and improved school grounds, develop rectangular fields in partnership with schools, and the town is already working with the schools on a number of different programs. And formalize your maintenance. For all the parks that we do and trails and developments, we identify what we call a maintenance impact statement. So council knows if you build this, this is what it's going to take to maintain it to a prescribed standard. And if you can't maintain it to that standard over time and put it in an operational budget, don't build it. In terms of program needs, inclusivity programs, initiate an advisory committee. You can't have too many committees unless they're not doing anything. Family focused and teens, initiate resident-led advisory committee, increase your program staff. We're suggesting 1 person. Event coordinator across the municipality, initiate events committee of groups who usually host events. Residents love events, and visitors will come to your events, and research shows that some of them, if they like it, will come back again and again. and some of them end up as your residents. And promote the town, your marketing program, we talked about that, by including in your program all of the recreation providers in the community and initiate a community ambassador program. In terms of partnership needs, and I just want to pause on partnerships. In our opinion, any project or development where the town can get a willing and fair partner should move up the list. Because what we tell municipalities, it's not that you have to provide all the facilities, it's not that you have to provide all the programming, your job is to make sure that it is provided and that everybody in the community is looked after. Regional collaboration. Explore opportunities for regional facility development, including the ATV trail and the trailway. Access to schools and grounds. Engage the school board and Department of Education, devise an MOU. We have been at this for years and years and years, trying to get formal agreements between the schools and the municipalities. If you are in Ontario or British Columbia, these agreements have been around for years, and it would really be beneficial to both the school and the town if there could be a way found to formalize these agreements. And collaboration with sports groups. Explore the creation of an advisory committee and a sport alliance. They have a sport alliance in the city of Mount Pearl for years, and it seems to be working quite well. And collaboration with arts community. Explore creation of advisory committee, arts alliance with Manuels River. And volunteer management. Establish a volunteer framework in year 1 and 2 to deal with the challenges and the reduction in volunteers that we're seeing across the country. So next steps is adjust based on what you folks tell us and what council thinks, and we'll be ready to submit our report by the end of December. And now I'm going to turn it back to our moderator, Anna, for questions and answers, and thank you very much for your attention.
So that was a lot to digest. So this is your chance to have an opportunity to ask the TRACT team any questions that you have or any suggestions that you would like to make for them to consider any new ideas as part of the draft plan. So we'll open up the floor to questions, and there's a mic right here to use it. Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Dower, just a recreational boater.
Yes?
And I noticed in your diagram you had Indian Pan, Seal Cove Pan, and Manuels River. There was absolutely no mention made of Lower Long Pan Harbour, Inner Long Pan Harbour. Not on your diagram whatsoever. It's, I wonder if there's any reason for that.
Well,
Considering that the Long Pan Harbour, the Long Pan Lower Harbour, Sunset Keys Marina, Royal Newfoundland Yacht Club is probably the busiest recreational place on the South Shore Conception Bay.
yes,
And there's no reference to it, per se,
yes,
right?
yeah.
Reference Foxtrot, which is all good, it's all good stuff,
Yes,
and I'm
yeah.
not complaining, but,
I'm hearing you, sir.
you know, like I'm saying, and I live, anybody that knows me down the area, I live right by the water, and you interviewed a lot of people. I know the tides, I know the harbour, I know the water, recreational boater, because I live there and I see it every day.
Yeah.
And now it could be a real, you know, source of information for you, but was never ever contacted, you know, right?
Yeah.
Which I'd love to if you get the opportunity, you know.
Well, sir,
but
we'd love to talk to you.
yeah, but like
Okay.
I said, now I'm just curious, like on your plan there, because Seal Cove Pan is good for the local people, Indian Pan is good for the recreation people, but when you get down into Lower Pan, the safest place getting out of the berth and getting out onto Conception Bay is Long Pan.
Yes.
Because of the width of the harbour and because of the sea state. And that's why I was kind of curious why it wasn't identified on your map as one of the, you know, premier places. And I can tell you, as a recreational boater where I live in Harbour, recreational boating, the guys that come from Mount Pearl, Paradise, Foxtrot, wherever they come from, they launch the boats right by my house at the bottom of the road. Do you know, have any idea how many people on a weekend launches their boats to go recreational boat fishing?
I know, sir, that a couple of years ago
Did you do?
in St. Philip's, no, I don't know,
no,
but I
okay.
know in St. Philip's a
Philip's,
couple of
yes.
years ago, on one weekend, there was 2,500.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, I am familiar.
That's
And-
right, yeah.
And we actually did marina development strategy for the province some years ago.
Yes.
I'm no boater, sir, but I have some understanding of it.
Yes.
And we'd be happy to talk to you. And I do realize the opportunity in those marinas, and that CBS really is the gateway in many ways for recreation boating in the province. The Northeast Coast is the place to boat, and this is the area where it starts.
Yeah, 'cause
From our perspective, sir, just to let you know why those are ones, I don't want you to think that we're forgetting about it. If you saw my little model there that I had, the 2 boats I had was, for marine, and if you'll notice in the slide, it was marine-based recreation. The reason that we're focused on those 3 ponds, and don't get me wrong, sir, we're happy to talk to you, absolutely, is because really there's nothing there. There's no, nothing is formalized. And I'm up there all the time.
That's right.
And I'm not a boater, just so you know. I'm not looking to get myself a slipway. But it's like gravel. It's a gravel pit up there. And there's such an opportunity
That's right, yeah.
for a little small boat marina, some shoreside park, some tourism opportunities, some housing opportunity. The area that you're discussing down in the Long Pond Basin certainly is fabulous, and it's well developed, and opportunity for growth for sure. So I'd be happy to discuss with you, but our rationale, sir, was because we're mainly focused on recreation, and those folks in that end of town really don't have anything. That was, if I wouldn't call it
Maybe that in the town, yeah.
in the town.
Okay,
yeah.
gotcha, just for
So
that,
our
anyway.
focus, our number one focus is on recreation. But that's not to say that the marinas down in that basin represent a huge opportunity for the town. I agree with you totally.
Yeah, I'm not saying, I'm not just saying strictly the marinas, like I'm just telling you, individual boaters that pass by my house every summer, right alongside. There's sea kayakers, the sea doers, the recreation boaters go cod fishery, the young families, the seniors, and so on, and like a really safe and clean place to launch their boats, and a safe passage out to the
Yeah.
harbour.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hoping that you'll play into your.
No, sir,
You know, eh?
we'd be happy to talk to you.
Yeah.
And from the perspective of Foxtrap, Foxtrap is
It's doing good, yeah.
an existing marina doing very well, but we see a tremendous opportunity because Foxtrap is where you come out, if you're coming in on a bike for St. John's,
Yes.
that's the place where you come out to that coastline.
That's right.
And when we look at the rail bed and the shoreline, we see, like a string of pearls. The first pearl you hit is Manuel's River Interpretation Center.
That's right.
The next one you hit is Foxtrap.
That's right. When you come Anchorage Road, you come up along by Anchorage Road, you come out Anchorage Road, cross right over Greenslade Road, you're right out to Royal Newfoundland Yacht
Yeah.
Club, Sunset Keys Marina, you walk around the shoreline.
Well,
You
sir,
know,
we'd love to have a conversation with you.
Yeah, so like I say,
Yep.
keep it in mind, like you say, there's,
No,
and
we're-
like you say, it's
we're-
right in the middle of the community, and it's along coastline, and it's long overdue, right, to make it safe for, recreational boaters. I'm good. I live there, I'm all set up.
I have to
Right, but-
apologize to you, sir. I forgot to ask what your name was.
Rennie Perrin.
Pardon me?
Rennie Perrin? Rennie, R-E-N-E,
R-E-N-E?
Yeah.
And then Perry?
Perrin, P-E-R-R-I-N, yeah. That's what
Okay,
I say, like
yes.
you said, Mr. Dahl, like you said, we'd like to have a strong look at that for us.
Yeah, we're happy to
That's
do
why
so.
I'm curious why it never showed up on your map.
Yeah,
And like
well,
I said, it's one of the, because like you say, the shoreline from there to the Cape is 18 miles, is 18 to 24 miles, 20 miles across the bay. And everybody that comes into our area, they go out to Long Pond,
yeah,
in a high volume area.
yeah. And one of the reasons, your commentary is one of the reasons that we're recommending there be a separate study done on water-based recreation in the town is for many of the reasons you're stating, sir.
Absolutely, yeah, good idea. Appreciate that, sir.
I appreciate your commentary.
Thank you.
Any other comments and suggestions? Please identify yourself so that we can keep track of you.
Ted
Yeah.
Perrin, Father Rennie. If I could just elaborate on some of the things he said. I don't disagree with much you have in your plan here. I think it's pretty good. So what's there, I think, is fine. Again, to elaborate a little bit on what he said, what I think is a glaring gap in the plan, and maybe it's there in the plan to give you, in all fairness, it may be there once you see the full plan. The marine industry of our town is situated literally between the woods and the water. Right? We've got the best of both worlds. We've got it all there. We have the bay. That's, to me, I consider that a park. It's
Yeah.
huge. We can fit thousands of people out there. Mount Pearl doesn't have it. The Goulds doesn't have it. St. John's, in fairness, doesn't have it because they have ocean. They don't have bay. We're relatively sheltered most times. Now, this summer has been an exception. So to me, we've got an asset in our backyard, a huge one, which
No
I'm
doubt.
sure you acknowledge, right?
No doubt about it.
The marine industry, and my background is commercial marine, and I'm also a recreational boater. The marine industry in Canada, the Marine Manufacturers Association in Canada, I think values it somewhere around $6 billion,
Yep.
the recreational boating industry. It employs like 40, 50,000 people
It's
directly.
huge.
It's huge, right? So we've got the biggest piece of it right here in our backyard on
Yep.
the Avalon, arguably. So to me, walking trails, ATV trails, all good. I support all of it. To me, up there with that needs to be recreational boating. Because, and I think if I can make an assumption on how you gathered your data, it was based on people who responded to the survey. Is that correct? Most of it? So, people who come from outside our town obviously wouldn't respond to that survey. So again, we're situated right next to the busiest launch, arguably, in Conception Bay South. And we watch everybody and we talk to them. They come and go next to our place. They come from Mount Pearl, they come from town, they come from Goulds, they come from everywhere because it's fit to go out here. You can't go out outside Petty Harbour or Kitty Vitty every day, right? It's just dangerous. So that brings in a lot of people to our town. They stop at Irving to get gas, they buy stuff on the way out, stop at one stop, bringing in a huge amount of money. Because to go out on the bay for a day fishing cod, really it's cheaper to go to Taylor's and buy your cod. But you do it because you love to do it. So those people come to town, they spend a ton of money. I don't think we've reached our potential, not even close. And to elaborate a little bit more on what Dad said about Long Pond versus Seal Cove Pond and Indian Pond, here's a little bit of a dose of reality perhaps for Seal Cove and Indian Pond. Not that I don't want to see those developed, I do. They're dangerous. I'm a commercial professional mariner. I've spent time with the Coast Guard. I'm an active Coast Guard auxiliary member. I'm in and out there myself on nice days. Bad days, you can't go in there. It's dangerous. It's shoal water. It's a narrow entrance. It's rocky. You're going underneath a train trestle. You've got to have good weather. So that limits when you can come and go. And if you get out on the bay, we shouldn't be out in bad weather anyway, but if you get out and you get stuck in bad weather, you got to come in. Seal Cove and Indian Pond, to me, they're ticking time bombs. They're a tragedy waiting to happen. I've seen it 100 times, unfortunately. It happens in places like Kitty Vitty, which I kind of compare those entrances to. It might be a bit of a stretch, but they're similar. Long Pond, you've got two big breakwaters. You've got a wide entrance. You've got established recreational facilities there already. You've got some commercial in there. It's a good mix of everything in there. The pit on Perrins Road next to our property, and for us, it's no advantage if it's developed or not. We have our own property, but the amount of people we see coming and going, their families and all ages, and about thousands. You mentioned St. Philip's, right? We've got a better spot there than St. Philip's. From my understanding, the yacht club owns most of the land there, but the town does own a 100-foot strip of land there along the shoreline. And to me, between that, you've got the yacht club, we got a private commercial marina there. We haven't seen the full potential there, I don't think. There's a whole bunch of vacant land there. To me, some of it should be preserved as is. Some of it can be, it's purposely used already as a launch. Turn it into a proper one. Whoever runs it or whatever, all those details can be worked out. But I think we really need to establish recreational boating as a higher priority in the plan.
Yeah, and I don't disagree with you, sir. And as I say, that's why we feel it's so important, why we're suggesting a separate study be done. And really, I understand. I've actually gone out through Indian to Seal Cove a couple of times. I'm no big boater. And I understand the challenges. My uncle used to bring a boat in there at Lower Gully, and we'd go out and pull it up over the rocks. So I know what the sea is like.
Yeah.
And we're not suggesting like a big, large-scale development. It's more like a small boat, and it's extremely active. So it would be putting a little bit more amenity there. And again, our focus is recreation. But that said, I agree with you 100%. The boating opportunities in that area are some of the best in the province.
Yeah, so, I think we're both on the
Yeah.
same page there.
Absolutely.
And again, not to take too much away from the other two ponds, but, to me, the pit, we see it, and I work in every marina in the province just about at times. And that pit there by the end of Perrins Road, that's so actively used, and to me, it's a safety hazard as is because it's so actively used. We've seen people hurt there. We have, right? We've seen near misses. In the past, people have been killed there. So it's very busy. It's dangerous because it's not monitored or controlled. We've asked the town formally, I have personally, to at least send someone down to kind of monitor traffic, help out a bit, keep things moving, because it's a tangle under some days. So I'd just like to see some of that addressed, and I hope that in the final plan it'll have a bit more of a.
We'll certainly have some commentary, but as I
Yep.
say, sir, we'd like to, not sure we're going to be the ones doing the study, but whoever does,
Yeah.
is when we'd really like to drill deep into what the real recreation, marine-based opportunities exist.
Yep.
And again, our focus for this plan, at least to now, has been on, we'd say, small-scale recreation boating is really what we're focused on, and providing an opportunity for residents in that area.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks for your time.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have any other questions or comments? And identify yourself as well.
Hi, my name is Jeff Tulk. I'm, I guess, as a person who moved back to CBS 15 years or so ago, biking, cycling, a lot of spots so I had access to Manuel's River. So, me likey everything you have in there because it all makes total sense. I'm kind of living what you're talking about in terms of that. There is one point I want to bring up. In my volunteer partnership role, I chair the CBS Squash Club, and CBS is kind of the hot spot of squash in Newfoundland, so I was really pleased to see that in your plan, because we are busted out in terms of our capacity. And Ericart is the guy who runs the inclusivity program you mentioned. Does a great job with that.
Oh, Eric,
Eric,
right.
yeah. But I wanted to mention in particular, one thing caught my eye. You had there about the schools and access to the schools, and I know that's a challenge, so I'd really like to see that move up, because that's dark space a lot of time. And in the spirit of the pot calling the kettle black, I'd also like to say I'd encourage the town to consider the same with its own facilities, because they also can be dark unnecessarily for non-sports reasons. So I really, if we could, a lot of stuff in your plan is going to take 5-10 years. That's life, that's the way it is. But some of these things can be acted on quicker, so that would be my suggestion.
Yeah. Sir, we'd really appreciate if you had time we could talk to you, or if you wanted to just, send us your commentary so we could review it for consideration for the report.
Sure, yeah, no problem.
Thank you.
There is a web page for this event, and on that web page, there's an opportunity to make more comments. So if you want to add more to what you've said, you can write to us, and then we'll get back to you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, the gentleman at the back. Don't forget your name.
Yeah, Scott Butler.
Thank you.
I'm a resident of All Saints Road. The All Saints School, is there any plans with that?
Yes, sir.
Well, what's the plans? Is there any repositioning the field? Because there's damage being done. The field is the only field in CBS that's batting towards a roadway, and the walking trail, the walking trail you're talking about, I'm a resident of the area. I got enough of damage done, right? And just wondering if there's any idea of repositioning the field instead of batting towards the roadway.
Well, I'm very familiar, sir, and we have noticed it, and we think it should be developed as a park area, and look at how the field is. I don't think the field has the right dimensions.
That's right. Yeah.
And so we're suggesting in the report that be looked at, and that would be become basically a neighborhood park.
So it's still a softball field or just a park?
Well, we don't know yet, but I mean, if I know there's a softball group that is very active.
Yes. Oh, then there's nothing wrong with the 12-year, what it's meant for. It's perfect for what it's meant for.
Yeah.
The 12 and on is the after-hour use, and the adults coming there, and with no respect for anybody around. Don't care. Anybody walking down the road, they don't care.
Pardon me, Karina?
Minor Ball has acquired the land?
Yeah. Oh,
My
thank you.
understanding, yeah. So
wanna-
CBS Minor Softball has actually acquired that land?
I
Do
know-
they
I
have a
know.
plan? Yeah, okay.
I know all about it, what the town done, the school board owned the land. They put the burden onto the town. Town didn't want the responsibility, so they give it to the association. Knows all about that, And they're trying to fundraise to get the school to it. And that's another issue. If anybody catches, we knows about all the break-ins with that school. They just finished boarding it up. If anybody breaks in that and catches it on fire, right, the teenagers that comes around there, all the toxic smoke, not good for the residents. is long enough, school, is an eyesore. He's going to tore down Monday. I'm starting Monday.
Oh,
Okay.
there you go, sir.
Okay.
Your commentary is timely.
No, yeah, that is a time,
Yeah.
yeah. Another issue, the road bees down to one lane when the association is there. Because of the school is there, they haven't got enough parking. But it's from Dunn's Hill right up to Ocean View, about 30 cars. If there's an emergency vehicle needs to get by, it's not getting by. They got to maneuver in around people's driveways and all that. It's going to delay the time.
Okay.
There's an issue with the field.
All right, sir.
Okay,
Thank you very much.
Any other comments or questions? Please come to the mic and identify yourself first.
My name is Mark Lane. I'm from Holyrood. Great job, by the way. Great
thanks,
job.
Mark.
Kudos to the town of CBS. Great plan. We in Holyrood area, we always think regionally. I'm glad you actually had our logo there. What we would be looking for, and I have a great interest, of course, proud dad of CBS Soccer Club. Just got acclaimed as the VP of the soccer club here in CBS.
Well, congratulations.
Well, thank you. Very proud. We're starting a soccer program in Holyrood. We've got a brand new field, brand new
Yes,
pitch.
I
But
know.
what we don't have in this area is an indoor pitch. So as tonight, obviously we can't play soccer outside per se. You have a beautiful pitch in Topsail, but one of the things I was glad to see was the actual indication of good support for an indoor turf. Excellent. I would like to see if we could include that in some consultation with the CBS Soccer Club, I'm sure. Obviously, you've got a close representative. And to expand that to the region. So if you could actually look at, if you were going to build that community center, perhaps look at that as being more inclusive for the entire region to include towns like Holyrood or Conception Bay Center, et cetera. But I think with the soccer program, if you spoke to people within the club, like myself, it's certainly growing exponentially.
Yes.
Certainly since COVID. And I think that it's time to see a second indoor pitch beyond the Technoplex. Because in the wintertime, us and most of the parents, most of the kids from CBS spend our time indoors in Pleasantville. And I'd like to spend my time and the money here in CBS if I could. But great plan. I just wanted to register that with you, and it's great to see. Congratulations. Keep up the good work.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Indoor turf facilities are trending big time, and the Techplex in St. John's is very, very busy.
Wrote some notes here.
Okay, what's your name, sir?
Aaron, Aaron, Aikens, Aikens, with CBS Volleyball. Couple things. Love to see what's going on here. I'm mostly concerned with the like an indoor facility, recreation facility, your big center. Kind of to piggyback on what you're talking about with soccer and whatnot. Has there been any thought so far into how you're going to form committees, sort of steering committees for these kind of things? I want to make sure that when something like this is built and we're putting a lot of money into it, is the facility going to work for all stakeholders? So we've got a lot of interest groups. I want to make sure that all the interest groups are contacted and have a voice in the committee. So I want to make sure that everybody's, has there been any thought so far as to how groups are going to be contacted or who's going to be kind of involved in any committee or anything like that? Am I jumping the gun here, or is that
I think the town should actually probably speak to that, because that's something that they're considering, is how they consult with stakeholders for the next phase of this. So the answer to your question is yes, there will be consultation with all the stakeholders.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that people, all the different groups are contacted, and because we want to make a facility that's, say, useful for soccer, that's useful for squash, that's useful for volleyball. So if we have, the expertise from all these groups, I think we can avoid some pitfalls that have happened in other facilities, local facilities. So that's one thing. Yeah, I think that'll be really important. Kind of to piggyback on the school thing, I wouldn't. I'm also a local phys ed teacher. There's not much, honestly, not a lot of downtime in a lot of your schools. Queen Elizabeth Frank Roberts, are really your own Admirals Academy. There's about a huge wait list of people trying to get into these schools. The schools are well used. The schools' prime time is your after school till, say, 10 p.m. You're not getting into a school. There's a long wait list, so don't hang your hat on school use. That's just something that schools are around, they're just not used. And if you've got small elementary schools, those gyms aren't useful for most groups. So, and they're already filled up with, say, beavers and things like that, so.
And we understand, sir.
Oh,
what-
yeah, just something to.
No, but it's a good point, because those gyms, there's a lot of pressure on gymnasiums.
You're telling me,
They're very,
yeah.
very well used, and we find that in all the plans we do. What we look at for it is, of course, in the summertime, look at the other amenities that the school has that could be with a simple change key system. Some program space could be made available inside. And when we look at the outside development of the schools, I mean, some of the best areas in the town are school sites that have opportunities for expanded recreation opportunity, be it a local walking track to a play area to a rectilinear field. So it's kind of a more expansive model, like multi-courts
I
and
was
that
really
kind of
pleased to
stuff.
hear you mention other provinces. I've worked and lived in other provinces, and just to see following and moving outside of our own area was good to hear. Yeah, I think that was it for me. Thanks.
All right, sir, thank you for your
Appreciate it.
comments.
Hi, Todd Powell. I just became the president of CBS Baseball, so a few concerns we got for CBS Baseball is that we cannot grow any bigger than we are today. We're right now at a registration of 200 kids for two fields, Stony Hill and the Kiwanis Field. We cannot grow our game no more. I see that you have a plan for the next 4 to 10 years for a new field up by Parsons, which is good to hear, but I'm just looking at the other surrounding communities, like Paradise. They just announced I'm hearing that they're gonna be building new fields down there, so we're looking at trying to grow young families in the town of CBS, but Paradise is growing leaps and bounds, so where are those communities they're gonna grow, CBS is not gonna grow by recreations. And also, to piggyback on what the guys were saying about the indoor facility, make sure it's multi-use for soccer, volleyball, and baseball also.
That's the
But-
intention.
But I also think for the growth of maybe even softball, I'll speak for softball also, we cannot grow our games anymore if we don't have facilities to use. So where the family's gonna go? Not to CBS, unfortunately. So I just wanna put that in the record there, that's so.
Okay, no, I
that's something to
appreciate
look
you
at
doing
if
so, sir.
And if there is a committee, reach out to the local sports communities and see who can get on board and help out.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks for your.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, what's your name? Hi.
Jillian Lahi, and I am CBS Volleyball Club phys ed teacher, lived here, born and bred in Kelligers. My question is for, yeah, I'm Dave's daughter. Hi.
Oh, okay.
My question is
Say hello to your dad.
I will, he's watching. My question is for, if you're building the facility, are you guys building it like where it's all said and done? Or are you gonna build it for plans that if we wanted to grow and build onto the facility, are you gonna build it in a way that you have space to, like, down the road in the future? Because if we're continuing to grow, we're gonna continue to need these facilities. Like, in the stakeholder meeting, I wasn't just advocating for volleyball, for sports. I was even talking about like quilters guilds and sewing and crafts and dance and so on and so forth. But I think it's important that it's going to cost a lot of money to get everything that our residents, I think, truly and honestly deserve. I hate driving to St. John's to play sports because I work there in the day and I come home. And a lot of our money right now, for anybody who's traveling into St. John's, your money's being spent in St. John's grocery stores, restaurants, so forth, like carrot. So will you consider that when you build the facility, like, you can't build everything we want right now, like financially, I just don't think it'd be feasible. But is that something you would consider? Like, okay, we're gonna look at this piece of land. If we were to build a community center, civic center, that we do have room to grow 30 years down the road if needed.
Without question.
Okay.
The facility we envision would marry outdoor recreation opportunity with indoor recreation opportunity and identify where the build-out will occur over time. It's like we mentioned there, if the town decided we're going to have a pool, and they said, but we're not in a position to do it for 10 years, well, here's what the pool is going to be. And when we look at those demographics, we can project forward and get some idea
of what the need is going to be, and create, so you got like dividable rooms, for example, opportunities, so it's, the servicing is there when you need it for connectivity and those kind of things. But the ability to expand and adapt to changing trends in sports and the changing demographic has to be built into the model.
Perfect. Like even somewhere to host a banquet. I
Yeah.
don't think we have anywhere in CBS to host a banquet unless you rent the Legion, but not everybody in CBS soccer is fitting in here. You know, not
Yeah.
everybody in CBS volleyball, if we extend it to families and stuff, would fit in here. So that's just ways that you can think, I guess, over time. So just to be open, like I brought up, the Powerplex, beautiful facility, 6 courts, not a single water fountain to be found. So
No.
like, just
That's right.
think in the future, that's all.
Yeah, I
Okay,
agree.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Okay.
Hello, my name is Gordon Billard, and I'm a freshly retired theater arts teacher. I was in Nunavut for 20 years, and I just moved back home in June. And not long after I got back home, my good friend Vicki Greenslade and Jackie Cook, who are incidentally members of CBS Harps, founders of CBS Harps, and also sang in several choral groups, choirs. So needless to say, we're here to address the gap that you mentioned that exists in CBS in the arts area. We have formed, over the last couple of months, a brand new theater group in town called Theater CBS, and not to put in a shameless plug or anything, but we're going to be here next weekend doing a radio on stage play of the famous Christmas movie It's a Wonderful Life.
Oh, excellent.
And tickets are selling fast. And if I might offer that up as a kind of study for you, we have already sold out our Friday night show and are 9 tickets away from selling out Saturday night show. And I think that's going to push everybody to come to our matinee on Sunday. So that's close to 400 people in just the last 3 weeks that we know want to come and see theater in our town. And too often, people have told us that if you want to see a good quality show with local actors, you have to go to St. John's or somewhere in the surrounding area to do that. And I'd like to just tell you that to give more weight to your proposal that a community center include a professional performing arts space for groups like ours and for groups like CBS Harps and other choirs and the CBS Concert Band and all of these people that are in town that are dedicated and talented artists. And I'd really like to just plug that idea of a performance space in town and congratulate you on a great plan. And I was really happy to see that included there, some attention given to the arts and culture, because we do have a lot of recreation and sports facilities here, but you're absolutely right, there is a big gap in this town when it comes to the arts. And I'd really like to encourage you and the town to continue to explore those possibilities and give us a space to act and dance and sing and show off all of the talent that exists here.
That's great, sir.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
So I'd just like to say that it was part of our mandate from the town to explore the arts and cultural. It was very important to them that there be a cultural piece to this. And I just want to say that we had really, really good consultations with the arts and cultural community in CBS. We spoke to a lot of people. Vicki, we spoke to her, and we got some questionnaires filled out by groups that we didn't get to speak to. So we got a lot of input into the plan and some really good information.
Zandria Canning, and I'm president of CBS Skating Club. I want to just talk a little bit about fees. There was a comment so there was 2 comments. One was about a charge for minor sports. What did you mean by that?
Well, whether or not the town should be charging a fee to families for kids to participate in minor sports.
So it's just like a general fee to every family that got, like, what is it, how does it work in other
Oh.
municipalities, or?
Generally, just if you sign up for, like to say, if your son wants to sign up to play minor soccer, there would be a fee. But not everybody applies it. And there's usually a program that if you're, like the REAL program, I think it's called in St. John's, that if you don't have the means, it's provided for you. But if you do have the means, you're asked to pay, and that money then is put back into the system.
Okay, all right, I guess that, just leading into some other questions. So one of the other comments was that the CBS program fees are lower than neighborhoods. Was that based on the town program fees, or did you look at like the sporting, that, like the different, like nonprofit organization, their program fees?
So that was when you looked at the regional?
Yeah, we looked at the fees charged by the other, just for benchmarking, what fees the municipalities in the region are charging in comparison to what CBS charges.
Okay, so like, you're talking town program then, so the CBS town program, or?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Right, and then I guess this is just a general comment. There's also a survey out for the budget for the town of Conception Bay South. And within that survey, there's a lot of questions around, would you be comfortable with raising taxes for like the stadium? I just want to make sure it's brought to this forum as well, because raising the fees for recreation facilities affects programs, nonprofit organizations like figure skating, minor hockey. So last year, the town raised the fees by 11%, which is a huge increase to a nonprofit organization. And that was, so it came first year in effect, first year of COVID. So we had a major reduction of how we could deliver our programs for the amount of people we could have on the ice. We had to change, so CBS Skating Club is, we offer the community the only Learn to Skate program, and we had to change the way we did that. So a lot of people want to teach their kids how to skate. We're not even allowed to help them right now. So it's really made some reductions. So an 11% increase the first year of COVID. The town's got a survey out now about increasing fees. I just want to make sure it's on record that everybody hears nonprofit organizations and the parents who have to pay for those are not going to be able to say that. So, and then talking directly from the CBS Skating Club, I think anybody in the sports world knows that teenage girls drop out of sports at a higher rate than boys do. So when a sport that is a large majority of them who are female, who had COVID, who for 2 years weren't allowed to compete, so go to the rink, practice, mom said you did a great job, but there's no competition, there's no evaluation informally, but Skate Canada would not allow competitions. So the dropout rate was a lot higher than previous years because the kids had nothing to work towards. So I think that's some of the things, like sports towards young girls, not even just for figure skating, but helping support other programs, because when teenage girls drop out, they don't get back, and it's really hard to get them back. And talking with other parents of how do we get these kids into recreational programs, how do we make it easier or keep it open for the girls to stay and to participate and that kind of thing. And I know COVID made everything way more difficult, but I just kind of wanted to bring those points up.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Helpful.
Just before you sit down there, am I good to go here? Sorry. I'd like to have a little chat with you on the fee increase that you spoke about after the session, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah.
And anybody that may want to entertain on that, I can certainly, hopefully, get a little bit more information so I can get an answer for you.
Okay,
All right.
thank you.
Just 2 points. Great job. Absolutely great
Thank
job.
you.
It was good to see it. And love that the arts was well identified throughout it. One thing I'd like to mention is, and this is the nurse, I guess, the nursing experience coming out. You talked about the seniors cohort. And from my knowledge and the fact that we're very much, the boomers were here, and we have a number of cohorts within us. And I think that's an important distinction to make when you start looking at recreation and culture. Because the 55 to 65-year-old and the 65 to 75, they're way different cohorts
Yes,
than
they
your
are.
75 to 85.
Yes.
And all of those smaller cohorts have their own needs.
That's
And
correct.
it would be nice to,
Yep.
to make sure that we're cognizant of that.
We are, ma'am.
Okay. My second point was, I don't know if it's possible to explore a combination. Right now, in what was presented, there was a distinct separation between the physical recreational side and the cultural performance side of this. There might be some ways that we could explore marrying both of those.
We would agree with that, ma'am.
Yeah, like
Definitely.
I'm thinking if you're looking at proposing a new building, maybe there's a center of that new building that could be central to both sides of that, culture and recreation. And
Yes.
maybe you could have spin-off pods of, things that work for the stadium type of activity, things that work for the pool type of activity, things that work for the performing arts, things that work for the library, museums, galleries. Like there's an awful lot of talent, both from the physical side and the visual and performing arts side in this community. And I think people are really hungry for a place to get out and do their thing. So I'm kind of looking more multidisciplinary, and maybe there's a way to marry all
There
of
is.
that together.
Yep.
And we'd certainly be very interested in being involved in consulting and being on steering committees and that sort of thing to see this move forward.
That's, appreciate your comments, ma'am.
Thank you.
They're not called recreation centers, they're called community centers now, and they're starting to evolve as libraries have evolved, to become as much community centers as they are libraries. So we see it as much as a social space as it is a place to recreate.
We have another 20 minutes, so if anyone else would like to come forward with a comment? Oh, sure.
And I'm going to speak now as a mom of young children. One of the comments was about the indoor pool and the benefit of having another indoor pool for tournaments. One thing we need to, I think every parent in Conception Bay South realizes that the indoor pool needs to be increased so we can actually get our children to learn how to swim. You can't get a swimming lesson right now. So I think indoor pool for safety of our residents, especially when outdoor swimming is high on the plan. We don't want to be doing a lot of outdoor swimming in outdoor swimming places if our kids don't know how to swim. So offering swimming programs, having the ability to offer swimming programs, will be really important. And again, I know COVID put a dent in how those can be offered with the town, but I think that's something really important that we should consider.
Okay, thanks very much.
Any further questions or comments? Or they're going up by themselves. Sure. Okay.
I was just kind of curious too, in relation relation to some areas you go out around central Newfoundland, different places, they got places, you know, like Indian Pan, Seal Cove Pan, and down in the harbour where we live, like boardwalks. Is there any provision being made for like boardwalks around? Like we get a lot of people coming down around, want to sit and watch or walk along and just look at the docks, look at the boats, look at the water, look at the sunset or whatever. And I'm just wondering if there's anything in your plan for boardwalks for some of the, like Chamberlain's Pan, I think is another one. Down
Yeah,
there, like around the perimeter of the waters here.
Yeah, well, Chamberlain's Pond is a great example.
Great
'cause
example for that, right?
I tried to walk around that one.
Yes, yeah, but
and,
beautiful spot for a boardwalk.
Would be a beautiful spot for
Oh,
a
I thought it
boardwalk.
would, right?
And that, sir, would be kind of at the design level.
Okay.
But I personally am a big proponent of water and boardwalks.
I noticed that in the area where we live, you've got an elementary school. I think there's 2 daycares. There's a seniors home, and like there's like even like the seniors, like you know, like just a beautiful like just in below the residence where we're to, it's just straight across the harbour, probably about 300 or 400 feet. Straight boardwalk there that the seniors could come out and walk across. And the little daycare children, most every day in the summer and spring now, they're coming out, the little kids, right? And they're coming down, and where do they go? He wants to go along by the shoreline and see the docks, right?
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more, sir. There's a gentleman, I forget his first name, named Gill. And we've adopted, we're actually trying to apply him in a project we're doing in Paradise, where the community design is based on the needs of children.
Yes, yeah, 'cause like I say, we get the little tiny
Yeah,
kids, 2
yeah.
daycares right close by. And they come out, you know, on the teachers and their teachers' little
Yeah.
skipping rope out hanging on, you know, right?
And it's
Where do they
pretty
go?
basic stuff.
Basic stuff, right?
Yeah.
And like a simple boardwalk, you know, safe boardwalk, just along the edge of the water above the high tide level. You look out over the harbour there,
Be lovely.
and it'll be perfect, right?
Yeah, it's a nice spot down there.
Yes, yeah.
Anyone else have any more comments? If you don't, and if something occurs to you, there is the website. As you know, they've been recording the session, and there's a website that has contact information. So you can actually have additional comments. If you think of something, you go home and you think, oh, I should have said something, feel free to ask a question, make a comment, and that will come to the TRACT team, and they can incorporate it into their consideration of the recommendations that they're going to refine and present to council. So that gives you an additional opportunity to have some more input. On behalf of the TRACT team and the town, I'd like to thank all of you for coming out. It's really good to see on such a rainy evening that we get a crowd that come out and have things to contribute towards this plan. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
I think that's the end of the evening. Oh, did you want to?
Just before everyone
sorry.
leaves, I would just like to extend thanks on behalf of the town to Track Consulting. As you can see, there's been a lot of hard work gone into what they've done. I also want to thank all the residents for coming out and whoever's tuning in online. It's been really great to hear all your feedback, and it's very important to us. So I just want to remind you to, make your feedback count. We've taken notes, but also go online, submit anything that you feel you want added to this, because it's very important. And you have until December 21st. So we really appreciate all the feedback. And if you think of anything else when you leave or when you're in bed or whatever, just please make sure you send it to us because it's very important. And again, thank you for taking time to come out tonight.